Have you seen this man? If you have, great, keep watching. If you haven't, great, keep watching. Back in 2023, I made a video on Kagurabachi, a manga that garnered some attention at the time. In it, I gave my thoughts on the first chapter and my hopes for its future. Don't watch that video, by the way, it stinks like sewage. But it's 2025 now, and things are significantly different. I'm a different person, and so is this manga compared to what it was a year and a half ago. Despite the reception that the first two chapters got, I kept reading because I had hope in the manga. And as I did so, a question popped into my mind. With more time and material under its belt, did Kagurabachi meet or even surpass my expectations, or did I misjudge its potential? My memory of the story so far was hazy, so I decided to revisit it in a spirit of fairness. With that now finished, I've come to my answer. Before I can explain myself, I want to go over the content that's been released so far. If you want to skip to my answer, go to the designated timestamp in the description below. If you don't know the story, then here's a spoiler warning for Kagurabachi. You see the length of the video, the truth will be laid bare here, so proceed with caution. If you're still here, I'm going to start with the Versus Sojo Arc. It's the first of the three currently out right now and the shortest of the bunch. The story goes as follows. Chihiro Rokuhira is our main character. He's the son of Kunishige Rokuhira, the creator of the 7 katanas known as the Enchanted Blades. These are weapons used in the Seitei War, a conflict that occurred in Japan over 20 years ago. These two live together and make weapons in their forge. Kunishige is known as a hero for his craft, but Chihiro has access to a perspective many don't know about. Kunishige deeply regrets creating his blades, but we'll see why later on. One day, Chihiro's father is killed by the Hishaku. He lasted a whole chapter. A group of sorcerers trying to obtain the 6 blades for themselves. Wonder why I said 6 when I mentioned 7 earlier? That's because Kunishige made a 7th one called Enten long after the war. This is the blade Chihiro now wields as he goes on a revenge quest to reacquire the blades and avenge his dad. Now being 18 years old and 3 years removed from his father's death, Chihiro and his father's friend, Togo Shiba, are still on the hunt for the Hishaku and the 6 other enchanted blades. This arc specifically has them protecting a girl named Char Kiyonagi from an underworld figure named Genichi Sojo. Sojo has one of the enchanted blades in Cloud Gouger, so him and Chihiro were bound to cross blades at some point. He also has access to Shinuchi, another enchanted blade, but we find out later on that he put it up for auction for the Rakuzaichi. That comes into play later on though. And I'll leave it there for now because I want to mention something. This arc held immense importance because it was on the heels of the memes and the backlash that preceded it. The first chapter got steam online because it seemed like a typical and generic modern shonen. Some of the memes were funny, but some people genuinely wrote it off after one chapter. I stuck around, however, because I believed this manga had more to offer, and it had a chance to prove that it had a story worth telling with this arc. So I'm happy to say that this arc did exactly that. Let's start with the characters. The author, Takeru Hokazono, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, did a bang-up job getting the reader interested in the main players. We see Char go from a distrusting and guarded kid to a kid who trusts Chihiro with her life. The reason she's so guarded is because of her lineage. She's a kid who was experimented on, a kid who lost her mother due to the evilness of people like Sojo in the underworld, a kid who never got to be a kid until Chihiro, Shiba, and Hinao showed up. Hinao is the person who gave Chihiro and Shiba their mission. She's an ally to their group. So now let's look at the cause of Char's suffering. Genichi Sojo, a monster who seeks Kunishige's secret behind the enchanted blades and how he can utilize them. He uses Char's blood as a method to try and figure that out. Sojo is a disgusting and detestable person, not just for what he did to Char, but to Madoka / the Ruma doll guy's family too, which makes his and Chihiro's clashes so much fun. Sojo believes Kunishige made the weapons to kill people for the sport of it. In his eyes, they are tools to kill through and through. So who better to fool him than the man's son, who helped make Enten? Chihiro is one of the few people who knows the weight of wielding and making a katana, the complete antithesis to Sojo. Which brings me to Chihiro. He has blood on his hands, so he isn't a civilian anymore, but he has morals. He isn't senselessly killing people like Sojo is. He wants to help as many innocents as he can so they don't suffer like he has. While his quest for revenge is a main motivator, returning the swords is as well. I can't wait to see how Hokazono handles his character, whether he surpasses his revenge or loses himself to it. Anyways, the arc art, oh man, that art is something fierce. It always delivers. It's not my first time experiencing it, but man does that not matter when you're reading it and seeing stuff like this. It can be so artsy and dynamic, it does both well, which goes hand in hand with the paneling. They come together to make some amazing spectacles, whether it's full page spreads or half page spreads. The art conveys how cool the fighting can be. Chihiro vs Sojo's 2 fights are a testament to that. It has me begging for a good studio to pick this manga up and give it the love that it deserves, because the fights are one of the main appeals of it. That second fight especially. You know how cool moments like this are? Both of them suffered great wounds and were exhausted from battling. Both deepened their understandings of the second blade, and at this point in time, they intuitively sensed the time limit of the sword's ultimate attacks. They just happened to coincide. 12 seconds later, the battle would last a mere moment. It's only sword fighting for now, but I hope Hokuzono demonstrates what the power system can really do, because we've only gotten the tip of the iceberg so far. This arc is the early boost that the manga needed. It's engaging, interesting, short, but fun. If it can strike gold twice, this manga would solidify itself as a Shueisha mainstay and a budding talent in the modern shonen space. So can it do it again? The Rakuzaichi Auction, an underworld event orchestrated by the Sazanami clan that sells items only attainable through illegal means. If you remember, Sojo put up Chinuchi for auction, or at least, that was the public consensus. But what we learn is that it was the Hishaku who did it through Sojo, so Chihiro and Shiba are after it before some other monster worse than Sojo gets it. Now follow me for a second here. You're at a cafe and you see 2 people fighting on the street, but it's none of your concern because you're struggling to get by after being disowned by your family. You got no money, no car, no motion, no vibes. But out of nowhere, a bright flash comes directly towards you. One of them takes it head on, protecting you and the cafe's denizens. And now, your life has been saved. With this newfound inspiration welling up inside you, you decide to fight against human traffickers working for the auction your family runs. But you didn't think there's through enough because you can't fight. Now you're up a creek with no paddle. But by complete accident and coincidence, the same person who saved you saves you again. Who's this mystery person we've taken the perspective of? He is Hakuri Sazanami, with his savior being Chihiro, of course. It's a cool moment because the setup is seamless from the previous arc to this one. We also meet Hiyuki, Kagari, and Tafuku Mihara in this encounter, 2 members of the Kabunabi looking for Chihiro. On top of that, we also get an update on Char and Hinao. This demonstrates how Chihiro's decisions affect others in the world around him, be it positive or negative. Shiba and Chihiro decide to infiltrate the Sazanami estate before the auction because Shinichi is currently there, but a few bad strokes of luck and some cool panels later, things go awry. Kiora Sazanami, the head of the family, and the Toe, aka Kiora's children, now hold the upper hand. We learn that Kiora's sorcery is the auction storehouse. Here he has a separate realm, almost like a reality marble, that stores auction's wares. He can register things and people, so this is where the captives are as well. But Chihiro, being the genius level intellect that he is, leaves Enten behind so they could leave with their lives. But he's not defenseless. He now has eyes on the inside of the storehouse because Enten is eternally bonded to Chihiro until he dies. So he can now infuse it with energy and use its fish to do recon. But what's he gonna fight with? Simple. He'll use Cloud Gouger, or what's left of it anyway. From his fight with Sojo, he almost destroyed the weapon, so all that's left is the hilt. But it's still an added boo when it comes to fighting because it's an enchanted blade. I think this is so cool and a great way to demonstrate differences in how they wield it, because Chihiro obviously has more experience with enchanted blades period. But now he has to find Enten, take Shinichi, stop the auction, save the captives, and get out alive. Dying isn't an option either because then Enten would fall into someone else's hands. So bar none, this is his hardest mission yet. So with that being said, let's move on to the main event, the auction. This is where the rest of the arc takes place, and it immediately gets hectic. We have main players like Chihiro, Hakuri, and Shiba, but we also see the Kamunabi with Hiyuki and Tafuku. For the Sazanami side, we have Kiora, the Toe, and his entire clan. So what better way to start than by having Chihiro storm the front gate, while Hakuri and Shiba handle the basement. Hiyuki and Chihiro come to a temporary compromise, forming an alliance, so now the Kamunabi are temporarily on their side. In this section, we get a lot of fights and reveals, so let's start with Hakuri first. We find out his backstory as to why he was exiled while he was fighting his brother Soya. It was due to his lack of sorcery and an incident regarding one of the captives. I'll put it up on screen if you want to read it. Through this fight, Hakuri unlocks his sorcery. Turns out he wasn't inept, it was that his spirit energy was being siphoned by something else. And what was that something else? Hakuri's very own storehouse. Just like his father, Hakuri has his own storehouse. Kiora inherited his from the previous head, while Hakuri's was passed down genetically from the first user of the storehouse in the Sazanami clan. So there's some cool theming there. Hakuri has turned into Kagurabachi. As for Chihiro's side, he has a chance meeting with someone from his past. One of the people who slimed his father, the leader of the Hishaku. While they don't fight, we finally have a face to associate with the group. Chihiro also fights Tenri, one of the Toe, which gives us insight on Dantenseki, the metal used for the enchanted blades. I'll explain it on screen now, but this conversation helps demonstrate Sojo's impact on the story even after his death. But now there's only one person left standing, and it's none other than Kiora Sazanami. This leads to my favorite fight in the manga so far, Chihiro Rokuhira and Hakuri Sazanami versus Kiora Sazanami. With a full power Hakuri and Chihiro with Enten, this leads to an amazing display of wills versus Kiora. Now don't get me wrong, Kiora isn't a fighter per se, but he has strong sorcery when it comes to having a storehouse, along with the will to finish the auction even if he has to use the Shinuchi to do so. And so he does, unleashing the Shinuchi, demonstrating why this blade has to be sealed. It always leads to pure destruction. This happens with just the sheath, by the way. The wielder's still alive, so Kiora can't fully use it, but even a fraction of its power is still immense. This comes at a price, however, as the wielder tries to control Kiora through Shinuchi, causing him to lose control. Kiora as a villain is amazing, and in my opinion better than Sojo. He's a rational and collected man, but he loses it when it comes to the Rakuzaichi. Tradition has him enamored, even if it cost him his life. While this chaos is going on, Hakuri and Chihiro use this opportunity to save everyone left in Kiora's storehouse. Kiora, on the other hand, wins the battle of wills but loses the physical battle. His body grows cold as Chihiro lands the final strike. Shinuchi therefore goes limp by his side. Before Shiba could teleport the group out of the collapsing building, Hiyuki and Chihiro strike a deal. They're on opposing sides, so Chihiro requests to join the Kabunabi, while Hiyuki takes the Shinuchi back to the headquarters. And that's where I'll leave it for now. Bigger arcs require bigger summaries. And multiple rewrites apparently. But now let me get to my thoughts. Because this is manga, I only have so much I can talk about compared to anime, so I'll try my best not to sound repetitive when I get to these sections. When it comes to this arc, however, I can say that it's amazing. One of the best shonen arcs I've read in a while. The story made significant improvements from the Sojo arc. The characters involved are interesting, the location, the political importance, the factions, and the history all come together to make a short but impactful second arc. The art and the paneling was amazing as always, especially when Kiora used the Shinuchi and the flowers started blooming, or some of the dynamic poses and how Hokuzono utilizes it to his advantage. It's time though to do my patented talk about the characters. They are the best they've ever been. Hakuri is a great addition to the cast. He fits the group as a utility fighter, giving Chihiro and Shiba access and strategy they didn't have before. But he also meshes well with Char and Hinao because he's just a goofball too. His chemistry with Chihiro though is his strong suit. The themes that tie these two together, be it with family or wanting to save people because of past trauma, make the two work well narratively. Chihiro was an inspiration for Hakuri to excel, while Hakuri was the main reason why Chihiro survived the auction at all. Hakuri found purpose in helping Chihiro and saving others, but with the storehouse he's actually able to do so. Chihiro and Shiba saw something in Hakuri before he awakened, and it was his character. He wants to help others even if it hurts him in the process. Chihiro especially, because Hakuri knows that Chihiro carries a heavy burden. So to help someone who saved him and considers him a friend is an honor. But Hakuri also serves as the tie to the Sazanami. He's an example of how truly broken the family is due to the auction. It's ruled by usefulness to the head and sorcery proficiency. So even if you're siblings, you're an outcast if you don't meet the requirements. I think the best person besides Hakuri and the Sazanami is by far Kiora. He's following tradition by running the auction and perpetuating usefulness, but he does hold love for his children. Only thing is that he's the head of the clan first, a father second. This is demonstrated by what happened to Tenri in the stone, or how he raised his children, or his blatant disregard for their safety. But the story does something that I liked even more. From his fight with Chihiro until his death, Kyora's character was expanded upon. Hakuri's awakening and Tenri's death had an impact on him, but what did it for me was the memory of his late wife. Her bedridden, wishing to have seen a world where the auction didn't exist, a world where her husband was a father first and not the head of the clan. Even if it was an arranged marriage, the two loved each other dearly. And to top it off, this panel right here hurt me. This is a man that was shackled by tradition, a man who only lived for the auction, and in his final moments, he probably only resisted because of his will to finish the auction. But I believe that his last moments of rebellion could also be in service to his family. But then again, who truly knows? Moving on, Hiyuki and Tefuka were pretty good Kamunabi reps as well. They were side characters, but their presence was felt. They illustrate that the elite sorcerers still prioritize lives over the blade. I also like Hiyuki because she's funny. She's such a tomboy, especially around Chihiro. Overall, this arc is great. It gives me Shibuya incident vibes in terms of hype and shock. It surpassed my expectations and gave me a lot to look forward to. But at the end of it, setting up for the future, there's still one arc I have to go over before this video is done. The Swordbearer Assassination Arc. This is the most recent arc in the manga, but it's also the longest. With that in mind, I'm going to separate the first and second half so it'll be easier to cover that way. This arc also isn't done yet as of this video's release, but I'll get as far as I can for now. Anyway, with the title not leaving much to the imagination, let's begin. As per their agreement, Hiyuki takes Chihiro and Hikuri to the Kabunabi headquarters. Shiba abstains because he had a falling out with them after Kunishige's death, so his presence would only hinder Chihiro's plan. After heated discussion with the Kabunabi leaders, Hiyuki vouching for Chihiro and unfortunate/fortunate timing depending on who you ask, the Kabunabi and Chihiro come to a temporary accord. They seal the Shinichi and Chihiro will be allowed to join. His plan worked flawlessly, and it's all thanks to the Hishaku for going to kill the Swordbearers. So the Hishaku are going to kill the Swordbearers. The Kabunabi are protecting 5 of them across Japan, with one of them being directly under Hishaku headquarters. If any of them fall, the enchanted blades are free pickings for the Hishaku, so they send Chihiro out to help. The first one they're after is Yoji Uraha, so Chihiro and Hikuri go to protect him by meeting him at a train station. As expected, things immediately go awry once they meet. The 3 of them get jumped by sorcerers wielding Dantenseki weapons. Sojo's research strikes again. The Hishaku were able to create weapons on par with the enchanted blades and Flamebone, which is Hiyuki's weapon if you remember. But as we've seen with Tenri, the cost is the wielder's life. That hasn't been fixed. So the Hishaku are hiring 2-bit assassins to outnumber him. Before they can make it to their next stop, however, we meet one of our next antagonists, Hirohiko. He's a member of the Hishaku who's around Chihiro's age. So in light of this, the group decides to split off, having Chihiro fight Hirohiko while Uraha and Hikuri go to meet another swordbearer, Seichi Samura. From here we get to see 2 perspectives, Chihiro's and Hikuri's. I really enjoy this because for the first time, we see Hikuri handle business by himself without Chihiro being nearby. And throughout all of this, we see flashbacks of how Samura views himself versus how Chihiro views him. Chihiro credits his father and Samura as inspirations and role models. The main focus for now though is Hirohiko's fight with Chihiro. This scene was such a good introduction to Hirohiko's madness and disregard for human life. A complete contrast to Chihiro, who feels the weight of every death, be it caused by him or not. They are not the same, and Chihiro proves that in this fight, with Chihiro coming out as the winner. However, Hirohiko isn't deterred by this, but encouraged. He wants to slime Chihiro because they're different. This is his skewed perspective on friendship. Something to note is that Hirohiko revealed new information about the Hishaku during all of this, so I'll put that up on screen now. Back with Hikuri, however, all hell breaks loose. At the temple they're at, the Masumi, which is Samura's designated guard by the Kamunabi, managed to transport him, Uraha, and Hikuri out of there. But Hikuri manages to bring Samura his enchanted sword, Tobimune, through the storeroom, so Samura is now online. Hikuri sends him back and makes quick work of the invaders, completing the temple defense. Or so we think. We come to find out that Seichi Samura has defected. He's now working alongside the Hishaku. He's looking to kill the Swordbearers, then the Hishaku after, for he believes that the Swordbearers are the greatest evil of them all, so he's using the Hishaku for now, until he can kill them later. While Chihiro's fighting on the other side, Hirohiko obtains Kumiyuri, Uraha's enchanted blade. Thanks to Samura's betrayal, Samura heavily injured Uraha in a duel, and the blade was transferred, but the contract isn't voided because he's still alive. Before Hirohiko could resume his fight with Chihiro, Hikuri transferred Chihiro to the temple, which isn't the greatest idea because Samura is a different breed, so Chihiro gets slimed immediately because he wields an enchanted blade. Shiba manages to recover his body, Hikuri and Enten, with Samura opting to not give chase. Chihiro and Hikuri are now hospitalized. The Hishaku have Kumiyuri, and Samura has defected. Things could not possibly be worse. so I wanted to take a quick intermission to discuss some thoughts I had, but also to give you guys a break from the lore dump up to this point. The enchanted blades have this air of mystery surrounding them, or I at least don't remember Chihiro or Kunishige mentioning the other three we haven't seen. Cloud Gouger, Shinuchi, Tobimune, and Kumiyuri have been the four we've seen to varying degrees, and they have not disappointed. All of them being different feels like they have their own personality. By extension, the sword fits the user's personality well. I think Rokuhiro deliberately gave each user their sword based on that. Like Chihiro and Enten fit perfectly with each other, especially with the flashbacks we've seen. On the other hand, Sojo and Cloud Gouger didn't match because Sojo stole it. He used the blade as a means to an end and nothing else. He doesn't have the connection like Chihiro does. He lacked the experience and he wasn't rightfully given it. When Chihiro used Cloud Gouger, you can immediately tell the difference. He treated it with respect and used it with finesse. He views the blade with deep reverence and understanding of their power. I want to see how Hokuzono handles the swords in the future. There's still 3 remaining, so I hope they deliver as well. Anyways, this intermission comes to a close. Let me know what you all think about the blades down below. Back to the video. To paint a picture, Tobimune uses birds as his trademark, so Samura placed multiple giant owls around Japan to track any Swordbearer spirit energy. Mentioned earlier, but Samura isn't working with the Hishaku to aid them. He could kill them with Tobimune whenever. Their goals align for now, so the peace remains intact. Which, speaking of, Chihiro is dead. Or he was before he was revived suddenly. By what, you ask? You'll find out. Looking over to Hikuri, he's fried again because he overexerted himself, so he's sidelined for now. The Masumi are with them in the hospital after getting fired by Samura. Because Chihiro died, his contract with Enten is void, but he's not out of the fight yet. He's going to stop Samura. The Masumi join him for his mission, as per Hikuri's request. Now, watch this. Meet Iori, a second-year high school student in Kyoto. She was raised by a single mother because her father left her life early. Things have been pretty strange for her recently. Something blocked out the sun, so school was cancelled for a few days. She's also been having weird dreams that started happening concurrently. It's as if she's forgetting something, but she can't put her finger on what. Oh well. At school, Iori's talking to some of her friends when suddenly her classroom is raided by sorcerers who are looking for her specifically. But those people are countered by a man she saw in the news killing people at a theater recently. What's happening, you ask? Let me give you all a proper introduction to Iori. She is Seishi Samura's legitimate daughter. Due to the Kaminabi hiding the Swordbearers after the war, his family was forced to follow suit. But Samura had the Masumi fake their deaths and erase their memories. All of this so they could live normal lives without him. As for what's happening now, the Hishaku are looking for Iori to use as leverage against Samura. The other party is Chihiro and the Masumi. They're here to protect her. For combat this time around, Chihiro's forced to grow. He can't use Enten because Samura will sense the large burst of energy and immediately slime him. Cloud Gouger is also broken. Shinuchi, Tobibuni, and Kumiyuri are all out of the question as well. So what can he do? He'll use a normal katana, of course. Another issue though, Chihiro is an Enten merchant, meaning he's relied on a sword's abilities. His swordsmanship always came second. That's why the gap between him and the Swordbearers is so vast. They had a foundation and built on it with the blades, while Chihiro built his foundation with Enten. So you take it away, what's left? That's what we're about to find out with this fight. And it doesn't start out great. Kaguri isn't a bum, so he's a good litmus test. The gap in skill is palpable, but Chihiro has a trick up his sleeve. As a blacksmith, he needed to be precise with his crafts. Who taught him that? The greatest blacksmith to ever do it, who also happens to be his father. So Chihiro instinctually uses that precision to imitate a style he witnessed from Uraha and Samura, the EI white purity style. Let me explain. Seishi Samura and Yoji Uraha are the only 2 certified masters of this style. The reason being because it's so difficult and precise that no one can learn it to that degree. So much so that it's a dying style because of that. Chihiro has no style and no teacher, but he has 2 great references to go off of. So while it's imitation for now, it'll improve with repetition. A funny thing the manga mentions is how Shiba doesn't use a sword, so he couldn't teach the poor lad a dang thing. Tangent aside, Chihiro manages to fend off Kaguri using this style while the Masumi teleport them away. Where they land is the Bloodshed Hotel, a hotel that prevents fighting on the property. Here, Iori is faced with a decision by Chihiro. Does she want to learn about her past, or remain a civilian? She has time so the question remains open, but the decision won't be made for her. We also learn about how the Seitei War started through this interaction. It goes as follows. Shikoku is an island that appeared in Japan around 22 years ago. With it came Dantenseki and inhabitants that were immune to its side effects. Shikoku promptly invaded Japan, with Rokuhira making the enchanted blades a year and a half later as a means of defense. This is where the 5 Swordbearers and 1 Swordmaster made names for themselves. The conflict ended a year and a half later, with it lasting 3 years in total. two new guests arrive, as Todo and Hirohiko show up at the front door of the hotel. Hirohiko has Kumiyuri, but just like Chihiro, uses something else to not tip off Samura. So the fighting resumes with him fighting the head of the hotel and his disciples. But the hotel's defenses prove futile because Hirohiko makes quick work of them. He manages to find Iori and Chihiro with ease before Iori could confirm her decision. Hirohiko's so interesting because he genuinely considers Chihiro a friend. He was sheltered and raised as a killing machine. He has a skewed perception of life as a whole. I like him as a foil to Chihiro. They push each other to improve, not for competition's sake, but for survival. You can see that with the EI white purity style and how easily Hirohiko adapts. He's a genius because of his upbringing. Chihiro's a genius, however, because of his swordsmithing. Steel sharpens steel in this scenario. The Masumi take Iori to the rooftop, but the rooftop is surrounded by patrons because the manager is dead and Hirohiko bought them all off. This leads to a scene I'm conflicted on. Ikura, one of Iori's friends from school, shows up to help her. What's he gonna do? I don't know, but he's here. Of course, he gets jumped immediately because of that. The Masumi are busy, so it's only him and Iori. This leads to Iori's awakening as a disciple of the EI white purity style. And the reason I'm conflicted is because from my perspective, there weren't any hints to this happening up to this point. Of course, she is Seichi Samura's daughter, but I want to know how or why it happened. We thankfully do find out right after, so I hope you're ready because it's flashback time. This is the true tale of Iori Samura. Meet Iori Samura, an 8-year-old girl who lives with her mother, Inori Samura. Her mother's been hospitalized recently because of an unknown condition, so she has to go live with her dad, Seichi Samura, while she recovers. Due to her parents being divorced, she doesn't know her father well, so for a while it's awkward between the two, but they slowly work things out as they get to know each other. Unfortunately, Inori passes away a year later. Now Iori's forced to stay with her dad. Their bond, however, goes stronger over Inori's passing, so she doesn't mind one bit. We also see how Iori slowly started learning Samura's stance through imitating him and going to his dojo. She copied him to make the rivalry fair because he was blind at this point, which is really cute. One day, Yura from the Hishaku appears at their doorstep. He reveals that he knows more about the Shikoku invasion than the public currently does. When the invasion started, it was a war, but when the enchanted blades were introduced, it became a one-sided slugfest. In response, survival instinct kicked in and Shikoku raised the white flag. A treaty was made and peace was restored. While they were augmented by Danten Seki, the denizens of Shikoku were still people, which makes this next part worse. The master swordsman who wielded Shinuchi slaughtered the entire island, disposing of 200k people. Whether it was corruption from the Shinuchi or if his base desire to erase the enemy remained is uncertain, but this incident will be known as the malediction. It would be hidden from the public. The master swordsman was imprisoned by the 5 other swordbearers and the Kamunabi. Yura mentions a possible second malediction occurring if he remains alive. Rokuhiro chose him as the master swordsman. Due to this decision, however, the other 5 swordsmen are tied to the master. If the master's contract is voided through death, the other 5 die as well, complicating the matter. Back to Iori, she's being bullied in school for being Samura's daughter. She manages to suppress her suffering so her father won't worry about her. She doesn't want to lose him again, especially after her mother just passed. But Samura, being a big dummy, leaves her with her aunt once he finds out. He couldn't stand the thought of Iori suffering and taking her life because of him. So the Masumi lock away her memories while Samura agrees to work with Yura after Rokuhiro's death. Yura's plan is to use the Shinuchi to end the malediction in Shikoku because the aftermath is still ongoing. And that is the full story. Iori remembers everything. She just wants to see her father again. On the other hand, Chihiro and Hirohiko finally unleash their enchanted blades, granting Iori's wish. And now that Samura's here, the real fight begins. Hirohiko's goal is to kill Samura so he can have his bout with Chihiro. And now I think it's a perfect time to talk about Kumiyuri's abilities. The blade can disorient people by affecting their senses with illusions. It can also control objects. In Hirohiko's case, he can control people because they're objects in his eyes. Pretty strong, right? Samura mocked him immediately. Remember, while Hirohiko's a genius, experience will always win in a duel with enchanted blades. Not only that, but Samura has evolved Tobimune even further than what it was before. I'll explain how on screen now. Kaguri and Todo retrieve Hirohiko. The Hishaku were out of the picture now in the hotel, leaving just Chihiro versus Samura. But the reason I say only the hotel is because now we're gonna go back to Kamunabi headquarters. I bet you forgot about them, didn't you? Yura and the rest of the Hishaku started attacking the base. They're looking to take Shinuchi here and now, especially since Samura dropped his aloes for Chihiro's fight. He's completely unaware of what's happening here. Fully healed, Hakuri awakens from the depths of his slumber. He's finally online again, chat. I'm genuinely so excited because from this point forward, It's new content for me. Mr. Kudo, one of the Kamunabi leaders, is with Hakuri. Hakuri is integral to his plan of transporting the Shinichi and the Master Swordsman out of their headquarters. The Hashaku are a crafty bunch. They wouldn't storm the base like idiots without a plan. Also, the workers have their families held hostage, so they defect. On top of that, Kudo sacrificed himself to save Hakuri. But in the depths of hopelessness, we see glimmers of hope. Yoji Uraha returns, using Shinichi's sheath to boot. I can't lie, this review had me geek. I was so happy he didn't kick the bucket because Hokuzono does that a lot. He fries a bunch of characters with cool designs before we ever get to meet them. Anyway, just like Shihiro, we find out that Samura spared Uraha as well. His Suzaku can revive people he's killed. And now we switch back to the hotel, where we see Shihiro versus Samura round 2. As they fight, the two talk about Samura's plan. Shihiro won't let Iori's father / his hero walk his path of preventing a malediction alone. I think it's also a perfect time to explain Tobi Mune. We've already seen Ao with it detecting spirit energy over a wide range. Crow allows him to use feathers as markers and teleport to them. Suzaku is broken now. He can heal any wound on him. The evolved version lets him heal others and even revive them. Thanks to his evolution, he's an experienced hand at it. Using Suzaku on Shihiro and Uraha, he planned on voiding their contract but letting them live. He's an idiot but a good guy. This fight is more than trying to stop Samura though. It's a way to prove that Shihiro can help, and the only way he's gonna do it is with Enten. This weapon was Rokuhiro's final creation, one he made together with his son. It was made during times of peace, so its intent wasn't to kill the enemy. It was meant for something else, to destroy the Shinichi. Near the end of the video, it's finally time to explain Enten. We have Kuro. This is the goldfish, which can be used as recon or as an enhanced slash by his blade. The evolved version lets the goldfish do their own mini slashes. Next is Akka. This one's busted. He can absorb an attack and use it against someone. This includes abilities like Crow temporarily. And lastly, we have Nishiki. This one enhances his body so he can perform crazy feats with it. The evolved version helps support it instead when he's heavily injured so he can keep going. A simple but effective kit, one designed to break the Shinichi. To prove that, Shihiro starts breaking Tobi Mune, but Samura's being a bot, he's still ignoring what's in front of him. But what finally gets him to wake up is the promise he made to Inori, to protect their daughter. That's all she asked. Forget the malediction, forget your guilt, and live for your daughter. Live for the people that care for you. So he finally heals his eyes, both metaphorically and physically, seeing his daughter for the first time in a long time. Shihiro was able to finally convince Samura, and now with Samura on their side, they have no time to waste. The Hashaku are still attacking the Kabunabi headquarters. Most alarming of all, the Master Swordsman has moved after 18 years of stillness. Things are going to get wild in this last stretch of this arc, and that's the most current chapter. Before I move on to the next section, I want to quickly go over Shinichi and Cloud Gouger's kits. I already went over Cloud Gouger in the Sojo Arc, but I didn't mention any of its evolutions after that. Cloud Gouger of course has Ko, which allows the user to control water, Yui, which controls ice, and Mei, which controls lightning. Mei was the move that had multiple evolutions because of the different people who wielded it. We have Cloaked Mei, where the person literally cloaks themselves in lightning, like Enten's Nishiki. This is Sojo's evolution when he used the blade. Shihiro's evolution was Mei Shred. It's similar to Sojo's, but is stronger, faster, and utilizes black lightning instead. At a glance, Cloud Gouger's kit is the simplest out of the ones I've covered, but that simplicity allows it to be versatile. In the right hands, this weapon can be a force of nature. Now we move on to the most dangerous enchanted blade of them all, Shinichi. We've seen Kiora and Uraha wield its sheath, but the Master Swordsman is still its true wielder, so we haven't seen its full power as of yet. Let's cover what we currently do know about it though. First, we have Spider. It creates flowers on the ground, and if they're touched, spirit energy infused flowers course through your body and fry you from the inside. Next, we have Dragonfly, and this move is sinister. Dragonfly-like wings sprout from the user's back, and they send spirit energy rippling through the ground. Flowers then appear from where the ground was affected, and it has similar properties to the cobwebs, where if you get affected, you're basically dead. We see this in the auction and how devastating it can truly be. We also have Centipede. This move summons structures that get sent flying towards the enemy. They're centipede-like in appearance and a force to be reckoned with. Lastly, we have the Malediction. We still don't know what it is, but we've seen the aftermath of what it does, erasing almost an entire population by the will of a single man. Shinichi, by no exaggeration, is a monster incarnate. It's the strongest out of the blades, wielded by the strongest of the Swordbearers. It doesn't have any evolutions, but really doesn't need any. Whether it's just the sheath or the full blade, this weapon will tear anything asunder. And that's all the blades. We haven't seen everything yet. Kumiyuri's missing some moves, and we haven't seen the remaining 2 blades. So in my next update video for this manga, I'll cover whatever's revealed next. Anyways, it's time for my thoughts on the Swordbearer Assassination arc so far. I gotta say, it's amazing, fellas. It's without a doubt the best arc in the manga so far. Thanks to my reread, I have a better understanding on the story, the lore, the mechanics, the blades, the factions, the backstories, and most of all, the characters. This arc is the biggest and most ambitious one yet, and I love it for that. Seeing so many players on the move simultaneously keeps you on your toes. It's never overwhelming either because Hokuzono makes sure each section gets the attention that it needs. The story took a real leap this arc. It's the most engaged I've been with the manga because we're getting into crazy lore now, but we also have interesting characters to match it. Characters like Hirohiko, who's a genius fighter but is held back by his underdeveloped mental state, or Samura and Iori's tragic backstory together. Lastly, I'd be remiss to not mention the fights. These are the best fights in the series, bar none. All of Chihiro vs Hirohiko's fights, Hirohiko vs Sengoku, Chihiro vs Samura. There were so many cool, well-drawn, and engaging fights. The art never fails to keep up with them. Point is, this manga is great. I can't wait to see how this arc ends and how the story continues. I have hope that whatever comes next will be nothing short of what we've already seen. Hello to everybody who skipped here through the timestamp. I hope this answer satisfies your curiosity, but if not, then I recommend watching the meat of this video to help illustrate why my answer is what it is. My answer may seem obvious given the length of this video, but I'd appreciate your viewership regardless. If you did watch the entirety of the video so far, don't worry, I'm almost done. My answer may seem obvious because of the context, but allow me to reiterate the question regardless. Did Kagurabachi meet or even surpass my expectations, or did I misjudge its potential? And after having reread and even made this video so far, the answer that I arrived to was that yes, it wholeheartedly obliterated my expectations. I didn't know what to expect after the first 2 chapters, but it definitely wasn't this. If I'm being truthful, it was mostly blind faith. This manga could have easily flopped and this video wouldn't exist because I'd be doing something else. But we're in the timeline where it succeeded and I followed through. I'm glad I did too because this is one of my favorite mangas out right now. These feelings have not only been solidified, but enhanced with my revisit. The story arcs are great. From the first arc up to now, each one has built upon the other and crafted an engaging story. For a first foray as a mangaka too, it's impressive to say the least. We get to see more and more of this version of Japan. The versus Sojo arc was showing the tip of the iceberg. But as we move on to the Rakuzaichi Auction and the Swordbearer Assassination arc, the world building and the lore develops. Each arc has weight as well. Lessons, events, actions, and characters have lasting effects on the cast, the world, and the rest of the story. Moving on, as I have stressed throughout the entire video, this art is godly. I've shown well over 50 panels in this video, even accounting for some repeats, so I hope that you see what I mean. With context they're even better, but these panels are visually appealing regardless. It all comes together because that man Hokuzono can draw. Now let's talk about the characters. They aren't the deepest, the motivations aren't the most original, but they aren't shallow either. I noticed that their actions demonstrate them the best, like Samura, Chihiro, and Kiora. These are all great demonstrations of Hokuzono's best written characters. They wear their motivations on their sleeve, to the point that how they fight is indicative of that as well. For example, Samura sparing Chihiro and Uraha, but letting the world believe he's the bad guy. I hope the character writing can improve as the story goes on, but I'm content with what it is right now. The fights. Man, the fights. I'm running out of adjectives to replace the word good with, but they're better than good. I didn't realize until I reread it, but they have a lot of detail to them. Each important character fights in their own unique way. Their styles, the weapons they use, and the sorcery they have influences each fight. It's a katana-dominated field, but sorcery has its place. I do hope to see more sorcery in the future though, especially Shiba's. But things like the EI White Purity style, or Sengoku style, or how Hiyuki uses Flame Bone, they all add flavor to their fights. And that's not even mentioning Enchanted Blades and how they add another level to that. Hope this video piqued your interest or convinced you to give Kagurabachi another chance if you have already. If you never heard of it until now, I hope you leave with some intrigue and check it out later. I appreciate you. Alright, it's done. This behemoth of a video is finally done. If there's anything I left out, mention it in the comments below. I'm so tired from all this, so I'm just gonna go to sleep for a nondescript amount of time. Before that though, I want to thank and credit the Kagurabachi fandom page. It helped me out tremendously throughout this entire process, and it even taught me some cool lore tidbits too. Links to that and various other sources and music will be down in the description below. Currently I'm playing Steins Gate on stream on my YouTube channel, so if you want to see that, stay tuned for the next stream. But if you miss a stream, the VODs are in the playlist on my channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video, whatever that is, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Peace.